New today, key Trump administration officials reportedly want to ramp up the pace of his immigration crackdown to 3,000 arrests per day. Sources telling Axios that during a tense meeting last week, Stephen Miller and HHS Secretary Kristi Noem demanded that agents triple the number of daily arrests that they were making, despite recent border crossing numbers plummeting. Immigration advocates are warning that this push could lead to more wrongful detentions and also the deportation of undocumented immigrants with no criminal record who have lived in the United States for years and who are otherwise contributing members of their communities. One such case has made headlines in Georgia, where a college student who was wrongfully pulled over wound up detained by ICE for weeks over her undocumented status. Ximena Arias is now out on bond, and she's speaking out after she was accused of making an improper turn and lacking a driver's license earlier this month in Dalton, and she was arrested. Following a review of dashcam footage, though, police determined that, quote, Ms. Arias Cristobal's vehicle appeared similar to the offending vehicle, but was not the vehicle that made an improper turn. The citations against her were dropped, but the 19-year-old remained in detention for 2 weeks because of her legal status. Coincidentally, in the same detention center as her father, who's also undocumented. Both were later released on bond and then reunited with their family. But where things go from here is uncertain. Born in Mexico, Ximena came to the United States with her parents at 4 years old. Her attorneys are now exploring options for her to stay in the country, including an investigation they hope could lead to what's known as a U visa, a type of visa set aside for victims of certain crimes who've suffered mental or physical abuse and are helpful to law enforcement or government officials in the investigation or prosecution of criminal activity. False imprisonment, we should point out, is listed as one qualifying criminal activity. We're joined now live by Ximena Arias Cristobal. Thank you so much for being with us, Ximena. First and foremost, just how are you doing through all this?
I'm doing okay through everything, but it's hard.
And I understand that you are scared in part to leave your home. I wonder what advice your attorneys have given you about what you should be doing, your activities as these proceedings play out in court.
Uh, they've advised me to stay at home as much as I can, and if I do go out, because they know some people have to go out at times, to be very careful and just be very cautious of my surroundings and know that not everybody has a best interest.
Yeah. I want to kind of step back and get a better understanding for the circumstances in which you find yourself in. When did you first learn that you were undocumented?
I think I was around, it was very early on. I was probably around 6 or 7. My parents made it very clear, and ever since then, I've known.
Had they taken steps prior to all of this to attain legal status? Had that been something ongoing?
Yes, it was. I know a lot of people think we've been here 15 years, we had enough time to obtain citizenship, but to be honest, it's very, very hard to obtain citizenship or residency. We tried various times. We hired lawyer after lawyer asking, what's the pathway to citizenship, residency, or a permit? And they just told us, you have to wait for something to change, or you have to wait for Ximena to get older and get married, or have U.S. citizen children. There was never a clear path for us.
And I just want to make sure, had you ever been arrested before? Had you ever been accused or charged of any crime?
No, absolutely not. I had never been in any type of problem anywhere.
So what do you say to the Trump administration and those who argue that by simply being here, you're breaking the law?
My family and I were aware that we broke the law by being here without the proper documentation, but I think we tried to take the steps to do so, and the system didn't really allow us to. So I would just tell them to be a little bit understanding, be a little bit compassionate towards people in my situation who truly don't have a criminal record, who are working, who are a great example of what a citizen should look like. They should give us an opportunity and find a way for us to be able to be here legally.
I remember watching the dash cam video of your arrest. It was startling for you. I could tell, because at one point when the officer said that you were under arrest, you responded with that you couldn't miss final exams. You're majoring, I understand, in finance at Dalton State, where you were in scholarships to attend. I wonder, with that in context, what would it mean for your future to be deported and to return to Mexico?
I'm not 100% sure, but it would be very hard for me to start college in Mexico. Although I am fluent in Spanish and I'm able to read it, it'll be very difficult having to write and just go into college where it's full Spanish. And I just think it'll be very hard to be able to take that up again if I was in Mexico.
Have you made any contingency plans in case you do get deported? Do you have any family or a support system there, or would you essentially be moving to a place that you don't really know?
Essentially, I would be moving to a place I don't really know. Although I do have family in Mexico, it's not family that I'm close to. So most of them I haven't met. So I would be moving to a place I'm not familiar with.
I understand that your attorneys are now investigating your arrest in the hopes that it could help you attain this U visa, which is meant for crime victims. You know, a skeptical person might say that people get pulled over by mistake all the time. I wonder why you think it is that what happened to you qualifies as a crime.
I'm not 100%, I couldn't really speak on that because I'm not very educated on that topic, but just because it was a false arrest and they did pull over the wrong vehicle, it falls into the category. So fortunately for me and my family, if that is the step we can take, then it will be best for us. But I'm not quite sure. I can't really speak on it as much because I'm not really sure.
Understood. I do wonder what it's like to be in your community right now, because I know that 70% of Whitfield County, where you're from.
Let's take a check of the markets, which are down more than 100 points right now, about 2.5 hours before they close. Changing little, though, throughout the day. No, the biggest driver of market volatility has been President Trump's tariffs. A new warning from a group of economic advisors to South Dakota's Republican governor concludes that they are driving up costs and slowing down housing development. They're not the only ones concerned. A new survey of 1,000 U.S.-based companies shows 72% are already reporting higher operating costs due to tariffs, forcing CEOs across the country to make tough calculations whether to raise prices, and if so, by how much. Joining me now, Chuck Gregorich. He is the CEO of Sunny Days Decor. It sells outdoor furniture, flower pots, fire pits. Thank you so much for joining us. I want just to sort of set the baseline here. What is your reality? Will you have to raise prices? And if so, when?
Yes, we'll be raising prices. We did a little bit in May. We're doing more in June and July. We had our containers, come in at different times, right? In February, March, April, May, June. And then as we work through the old inventory and incur the higher priced inventory, we will be increasing prices somewhere between 5% and 15%. And it probably should be higher. It's just that we're eating some of the tariff cost.
I know you spoke to the Wall Street Journal and gave them, as one example, a bistro set that now costs you $28 more. When you say you're eating some of it, can you go into your decision making on raising prices? How do you decide when to do it? By how much? And what are you hearing from your customers?
Yeah, we've already paid over $1 million in extra tariff costs in the last 2 months.
$1 million?
Over $1 million, yeah, already. And So we'll continue to pay more and more in tariffs each month as we bring in more containers. So we have to increase our prices or we can't operate. Or customers, because we're just in the early point of increasing prices, they haven't said much yet. We haven't heard much yet. And when I say I'm eating some of that cost, for instance, some of these products got hit with the China, the fentanyl tariff of 20%. They got hit with the steel tariff of 25%. So I had a 45% cost increase. So if I had a furniture set that cost me $100, I got another $45 in cost in there. So we didn't feel like we could raise our price enough to cover those $45. So we're eating some of that cost. The consumer can only spend so much, and they only got so many discretionary dollars. So we're trying to eat some costs when we can, just trying to be more efficient and watch our operating costs that we have locally here.
Much of what your company sells is made in China. You're not unique in that, and that has been the subject of these high tariffs. Have they made you consider changing how you operate, how much you buy from China? Or, as some people have suggested, it's not like you can go like this and suddenly source stuff from somewhere else and get it on a dime.
Yeah, Chris, that's a good comment. We started this 7 years ago. We started trying to source outside of China. We've been in business 19 years.
This is what we need to see. We need, these people are, and I'm not saying these two situations are equal, but these are two people that in different ways, to very different extents, are being harmed by Trump and Trumpism and by the Republican Party either going along with Trump or refusing to stand up to him, right? You have people just getting locked up for God knows what reason. In some cases, there's no reason and no due process, no recourse. And of course, this is happening to undocumented people, but even citizens, even people with privilege in some cases. I mean, there was a white Canadian lady, guys, Canada, who got random. Remember, they threw her in a detention facility for a while, and then she got out, luckily. And it was this big thing. It's happening to even people with privilege. So what does that say for the people that don't have a lot of it? The people that are already marginalized even before Trump came back to power. The people, you know what I mean? It's really scary stuff. But I want to applaud the bravery of these people speaking out, saying that this is not normal. This is not typical. And this is not actually what Trump promised when he went into details. Yes, he did promise mass deportation. He actually did say that. But then when you pressed him on the details, it was very clear, we're going to treat people with respect. We're only going to go after the bad guys first, and only after we got all the bad guys, we're going to get everybody else. And then when you actually, the system breaks down into the reality of implementing it, you have people being thrown in camps. This is 1930s Italy, 1930s Germany stuff in some ways. Not at the end, of course, but this was what they did first. And it's not going away.